Now that we've seen all and learned about all the different parts of the graph of a quadratic function, let's look what happens if we subtract 2 from the end. So we're going to be doing a bit of our transformations. So here is my original function from the last task right there. And I've subtracted 2 from the end. Well, knowing what we know about transformations, subtracting 2 on the end, if we remember, is going to move it down. Okay, so we know it's going to move it down. Now we need to determine what's going to change about this new function if we move it down. So let's go ahead, let's graph, and let's look at the graph of this if we were to move all of these points down too. So let's go ahead. So instead of the vertex being at 1, -2, it's going to be at the point 1, -4. Okay, so instead of the point 0, 0, we're going to have the point 0, -2. Well, I could see already there it's changed my y-intercept. We're still going to have that symmetry idea, so I know this point over here is going to be on there. We also have the point, I believe, 3, 6, so it's now going to be point 3, 4, move down to. And then again, we have that symmetry. Here's my line of symmetry. It's always kind of nice to know that line of symmetry. Here's that line of symmetry. We can use that from the vertex. So then, since that's 2 away that way, we're going to go 2 away that way. So then here is the graph of it moved down to. Okay. So by moving it down to, first of all, did the symmetry change? Did that axis of symmetry change? Here, up here, we had it over here at 1. It's still over here at 1. So symmetry did not change. So the line, what we call that line, or axis of symmetry, is the same. Axis of symmetry is the same. Is the same. Point what? X, oh, sorry. X equals negative, X equals 1. The vertex is different. Vertex is different. It moved it down. So the vertex changed. The vertex is now different. The vertex is now the point 1, -4 and not 1, -2. Which that then changed. So this is now the new minimum. So it did change the minimum because it changed that vertex, which means it also changes the range. My range is no longer greater than or equal to -2. It's now greater than or equal to -4 because it's all the points from -4 on up. What about the domain? Did it change my inputs? I can still input any number I want, or this graph still goes. It does go left and right for forever. So my domain in this case is still all real numbers. Okay, what about the intercepts? Did they change? The old ones were at 0, 0. So yes, that did change. That put the y-intercept. The y-intercept did change. It's now down here at -2. The y-intercept is at -2 now. But what about the x-intercepts? Did those change? Let's see. Up here, they were at 0 and 2. 0, not at 0 anymore. Not at 2. That doesn't look. Maybe it's at 2. I don't think so. I think my graph's just off a little bit. Let's go ahead and let's look at the official on Desmos. Let's subtract 2 off the end. Nope, it's not at 2 anymore. It's at like 2.41. Again, Desmos, just do decimal approximating. We'll get better at finding those graphs. So the x-intercepts did change. They're not at 0 and 2 anymore. They're at different points, not super nice points. So the function does move down to, and a lot of things change about that function. Those x-intercepts change. Okay, so now another situation. What if we take this graph and we multiply the entire function by a negative? For example, negative. So we have this negative out front. So that whole function is being multiplied by a negative. What do we think is going to happen? Remember what putting that negative out front does? Okay. Well, let's look. Let's just go ahead. Let's go to Desmos. Let's look. Let's put that negative out front. So I'm going to need parentheses. And let's put that negative out front. I don't know, drum roll. What do we think is going to happen? All right. Negative. Ooh! It flipped it down. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try to take this whole thing and copy it. What, let me? Nope. I want to graph them both. So let's go ahead. Let's get rid of those points. We really don't need them anymore. And let's graph a new function, g of x. And let's have it be the negative negative of 2x to the second minus 4x minus 2. So that we can see the flip. So there it is. It flipped it over. It flipped it up and down. It looks like it flipped it over the x-axis. So that negative out front is going to take my graph, and it's going to take all those points, and it's going to flip it over. So instead of the point 1, negative 4, it's going to be 1, positive 4. And it's going to flip it over. What did it do? It flipped it over the x-axis, which is going to change a lot of things. It doesn't have a minimum anymore. It now has a maximum. Because we say it went from opening up, now this guy opens down. It now opens down. So now this vertex is, first it's a 0.14, so that did change. And now it's a maximum. So there's our vertex. So that means the y-intercept changed. It is no longer at negative 2. It's now up at positive 2. Changed to positive 2. What else has changed? The domain's still all real numbers. The range has changed, though. The range, instead of now being greater than or equal to negative 4, going from negative 4 on up, this is now going from positive 4 on down. So my range is now y is less than or equal to 4, because now we go from 4 on down, so less than or equal to 4. So that has changed. What about those x-intercepts? Interestingly enough, if we go to Desmos for sure, we can see those x-intercepts are the same for both of them. X-intercepts don't change, and we'll actually be using that in a later section. The x-intercepts didn't change. They're still the exact same x-intercept. They're just now, they're the same point. It's just instead of opening up, it's opening down.